The scarf I'm sharing with you today is one that I've developed from my Pinterest board of ideas. So Pinterest being the modern day version of a scrapbook. It's where you can find all sorts of things, and I put together a board for my silk painting. And this scarf is a result of a couple of ideas I saw on that. Now, to begin with, I wanted to develop a motif, and you can see it here. It's not the same each time I've drawn it because I didn't want something that was exactly the same. I like that hand drawn quality that you get with a hand painted piece of work. So I practiced in a sketchbook, getting the hand movements right. I wanted something that was a little bit floral but not a flower, and I've added these swirls on the outside to give the idea of water. To me, it reminds me a little bit of a water lily, and therefore I chose sort of oriental colours for it as well. I also wanted it something that had this sort of idea of the scarf being two halves, so that when it's worn, you can sort of wear it with one side out, or you can wear it with the other side out. But it's very suggestive. It's also suggestive of a landscape because you've got these water lilies sort of sitting inside a pond. You've got a horizon line here, and yeah, I'm quite happy with the end result. Okay, so I often draw freehand rather than slavishly tracing off a paper template, because I feel that it gives your work a little bit more spontaneity. So the first thing I did was, after attaching the scarf to the frame, I actually left the creases in the scarf this time because it helped me work out the placement of each motif. And then after drawing the Gutta freehand, I mixed some colours while the Gutta dried, and I wanted these sort of oriental earthy colours, but I have a lot of trouble getting them pale enough, and some of these ones here I had to paint several times to get them to stand out. So, and I have left, you'll see that I've left some little white areas. Now they just help to add a bit more life to your scarf by having a bit of white in it, because otherwise it tends to be a little bit flat if you haven't got a range of different colours. So I painted the motifs first, and then I wanted a brown background behind the motifs that went halfway along the scarf. So I mixed up some brown using the red, the yellow, and a small amount of blue, and then I applied it with the largest brush that I had. But I'm trying to paint in and around here, so I'm trying to work as quickly as I can, but you can see that I've got different degrees of dye applied at different places, which is fine because that's the sort of effect that I wanted. As the dye dried, it started to separate more and more, and you can see the yellowy green that I've got from the blue and the yellow that I mixed, and then you can see these orange that I've got from the red and the yellow, and they've separated out, but it's also given me this beautiful waterline halfway along, because that was where I was working. That was the dry side of the silk, and this was the wet side of the silk. So where you're working wet on wet, you'll get sort of more subtle lines, and where you're working into dry, you get a much harsher line. So even though it wasn't exactly what I planned at the very beginning, I was quite happy with the end result, and you've got some really interesting areas there. So when that was dry, I decided to add this other band of colour, and I wanted it to contrast, but I also wanted to pick up the colours that I'd put in some of these motifs. This actually ended up being very strong in colour, so I did have to come back and pick up a couple of these spots to get the deeper colours through. And this band here, I've included some photos in the video. It took me quite a while to get it to blend the way I wanted it, but you've got this sort of, it nearly looks like it's an horizon line with a bit of a mountain range or something in the background. So I'm quite happy with the way that worked out. So when mixing my colours, I actually test them on a piece of paper towel usually, and I've tested my Gutta there as well. And that helps to check your colours and also to get your Gutta running and get a bit of a feel for it before you go straight onto the silk. So I hope that gives you some ideas and keeps you busy for the month ahead. Happy painting.